Hey, so the topic of free will keeps coming up in my reality and my perception over the last few days. I've seen a bunch of stuff on YouTube popping up, and of course, I've read plenty of posts about this on Reddit over the last 9 months or so, and I've never ever seen somebody explain this in a way that fits my own perception of it. It seems to me, and of course this could just be my perception, but it seems to me that there are two schools of thought. Either everyone out there has free will, and therefore, you have to consider the morality of what you intend to happen, or no one has free will, and you should just do whatever you want, because they're just your minions, essentially, and you are the supreme being that decides what's going to happen. It doesn't matter. Neither of those things rings true for me in reality, in my own experience. And I also think, a lot of people talk about this in the name of Neville Goddard, but Neville Goddard has a chapter on free will in the Power of Awareness. And if you read it, it's spelled out in plain English that you don't have free will. No one has free will. Everybody has free will the way we're thinking about it. Everybody has the ability to think they're doing something because they want to. The thing is, and the confusing thing is, that your urges to do things, your desires for things, aren't always what you think they are. In fact, I would say often they're not what you think they are. Wallace Wattles in The Science of Getting Rich, I don't have that in front of me right now, but there's a part where he talks about if you want a sewing machine, how it will be brought to you, because a sewing machine was a big deal in 1880 or whatever. And he's talking, if you want a sewing machine, even if you can't think of any way to get it, God will act on the minds of man to bring you the sewing machine in China or wherever it was that they were making. I guess it wasn't China. Wherever they were making sewing machines, a person who makes sewing machines will be compelled to get a sewing machine to a ship that will take it to whatever. Basically describing how the minds of man will be acted upon. And the thing is that you are a part of that. And you also are just a pawn in other people's intentions. That's how this whole thing works. We're like a bunch of ants down here. We act out of our own free will, seemingly, but the way to know that this is true, that what I'm saying is true, is manifest something bigger than, a good grade on a test or a cup of coffee or seeing a thing. If you go through the process of manifesting something grand, I'll link to my Bridge of Incidents video about basically how I went from being bankrupt and having my electric shut off to being a self-made millionaire. It took a long time, and there were a whole bunch of things that went into it, because in order for me to embody the state of who I am now versus the person who couldn't get their shit together to get enough money together to pay an electric bill in 2008, I had to go through a lot of changing. That's what a lot of this stuff entails. When what you want involves you becoming a different person, you will go through a bridge of incidents that gets you there. You'll go through the experiences to get you there. And when you look back, when I look back on all the things that happened in that period of time, there are so many examples of times where I did one thing thinking it was going to be something, or doing it for a reason that I thought, was something, and it turned out that it was exactly what I needed to move me towards this final state, the full fulfillment of the manifestation. So to give a more recent example, one that can be verified on this channel. So in December I said, my ultimate romantic fulfillment is a done deal. I don't know what exactly that's going to look like. I don't know who it's going to be with. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know how I'm going to get there, and I don't know when it's going to happen. I just know it's going to happen. I'm going to go through whatever I have to go through to become the person that is going to fit into, one half of the whole of the exact relationship I want. It's done. I know it's done. That's how I created the wealth and stuff. It was the same thing. I know that ultimately I'm going to be a total success. I'm going to have all the money that I could ever want, and it's done. I did the same thing in December about the relationship thing. And I don't know, whatever. I still feel like I'm like, I don't know, is it too soon to call this? I don't know. If you could see how things have been unfolding between me and Matt, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. It just gets better and better. It just gets perfecter and perfecter. Things that like I secretly want that I would never ever ask for, he is, it's one of those things where it's like the thing I wanted is just being fulfilled to a point that is so far beyond what I would have been happy with that it's just mind-blowing. But when I look at what happened between December 2nd last year and June 22nd this year, when Matt and I when I first started thinking, when I first started like having interest in Matt, if you look at what went down on this channel, like it certainly wasn't a straight line to that, I had a specific person intention that brought about a bunch of changes and realizations for me. And I came to the point where I realized that, my desire for him was stemming from some things about me that once healed, just sort of released the desire for him. It just kind of, made that go. And right at the same time as I was just kind of like, I'm sort of done with the whole specific person thing, that was when my friend Steve, who I had already decided rationally was not right for me, and I'm back to that point again. I wasn't wrong. At that point, which was like the beginning of March, Steve talked to me about how he had feelings for me, and I always had feelings for him. Like, I always wished we could be together, but I just like knew we were wrong for each other. And I said to myself, okay, I've decided that he's wrong for me. I'm gonna open my mind because I have this desire. There's this heart's urge for Steve. And so I just said, I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna see, I was reading in Reality Transurfing that when you have a heart's desire, you should listen to it because your heart is connected to the creative plane. It's so cool how this stuff works. Your heart is connected to the creative plane, and it can see things that your rational mind can't see. So I just said, okay, I buy that. I could totally buy that. I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with this feeling. I'm going to tell Steve that I feel this way, and I'm going to see what happens. Well, what had happened was Steve ended up staying with me for lockdown when the coronavirus thing hit. And through that experience, I came to the conclusion that we really should just be friends. It sort of came full circle back to where I started. But that heart's desire being allowed to play out caused all kinds of other shit to happen. Okay, first of all, Steve has told me how impactful and important that time was for him. Okay, so my heart's desire was divine intelligence using me as a chess piece. I needed to be there for Steve's life for some reason that someday will be fully recognized. Even when he was leaving, it was already apparent. He told me some things that made it really clear to me that it had been important for us to spend that time together for him. Okay? But I could not have seen this coming. I couldn't have seen this part coming. Having another man living with me for 6 weeks really impacted my relationship that I had with my ex, that I owned my business with, that I built this whole business with, that was like my best friend, this whole time. That brought to light some stuff between us. It brought to light some ways that our relationship was still intertwined that needed to change. This became obvious. I made a video about this at the time when this was happening. I realized that I was still committed to my ex in certain ways that were preventing me from moving forward and being with somebody else in a real way. And the same thing for him. You know, he realized that, you know, when he had the experience of me being with somebody else in a living situation, he realized some things about how he was still feeling about the relationship. And it was really difficult, really, really difficult, but that all changed. It was really rough getting through that, but it got to the point where that relationship had righted itself and gotten where it needed to go, and my head had gotten where it needed to go with that. How could I have known it would take I didn't know about lockdown coming. I didn't know how Steve would impact things. I didn't even know that the relationship that I had with my ex needed to change in order for me to be with somebody else. This whole time I'm operating under the illusion that I'm just doing what I want, following my heart, you know. This whole time, the whole thing was orchestrated to get me to the point where in the middle of June, I'm sitting on my couch thinking, wow, all this stuff went down for the first time in maybe ever. I think I'm actually at the point where I could meet the right person. And there was Matt a week later. You know, and another fine example of this is this YouTube channel, which is how I met Matt. It's how I started talking to Matt in the end of January. I just felt compelled to make a video one day. Like, I don't have any desire to be famous. I have no intention of being a manifestation coach ever. I don't want anything to do with that stuff at all. You know, I just felt compelled to do it. And then I took, you know, I love my anonymity so much. Like, the idea of being a famous person, I've just never understood why people would want that. And even just like having a channel on YouTube made me uncomfortable. But I was like, no, like, you know, I got to do this for some reason. I just have to feel compelled to do this. Well, that's how I met Matt. Like, I wasn't doing this to meet somebody. It's crazy. Like, and you know what? This channel is probably playing a role in a whole bunch of other people's intentions, you know? That's the thing. I'm a chess piece and I get it. And I'm okay with that. I don't have free will. No one else has free will. You don't have free will. You just think you do. And that's why all you really have to do is realize that you are pure consciousness. That's all you really are. Everything else is kind of up for grabs. You know, you can try to build your world. You know, you could try to build new beliefs and build your experience. But really, all you can do, I think this is also in that chapter that I mentioned of Neville's, the free will chapter in Power of Awareness. If not there, somewhere, Neville basically says your free will is in choosing what you want. It's in choosing what you want to experience. That's it. Because after that, you think you're acting towards something, you think you're doing one thing, and it turns out later that, you know, the thing you thought you were doing for X reason ended up being, you know, just a part of the bridge that gets you from point A to point B. And who knows how many times a day you're playing the exact role somebody else needs you to play in their intention manifesting. So that to me is, it's pretty open and closed, you know, about the issue of free will. Nobody has it, and everybody thinks that they do. And everybody comes to everything in their life, you know, under the illusion that they made the choices to get there. And the only time you really know, you can really, for a second, because you can't remain aware of this all the time. The only time for a second you can really understand how little you know what you're doing is when you look back and see that you did something and how it ended up playing out, you know, in your life, turning out the way it did. I don't know, it's kind of a big, beautiful mystery. This whole thing is just a big tapestry that we're each just, you know, a single thread in. And all you really have to do is just try to keep on self-actualizing, keep on, you know, growing and being the best that you can, and thinking of yourself in the best way you can, and doing the best for everything, and everything will just get greater and greater. That's been my experience. I could not be happier right now. I really couldn't. And you should listen to what I'm saying, because I've done some crazy, amazing shit now. I'm still quietly processing in the background just what exactly has happened in my life over the last like decade, especially. It's just crazy. All I can say is that no matter where you're at right now, in 10 or 15 years, you could be living a completely different life, maybe way sooner. But I mean, in as little as a decade, your entire fucking life can be different. In such an amazing way. So anyway, that's it. Wow, long video. I intended for this to be like 3 minutes long. Oops. What else is new? Have a great day.